And then last but not least, Ric Campo, who is the chairman and CEO of Camden, but also he is here to do a few maintenance items in this room today. You know, he is a multi-dimensional person. But I'm going to start off and ask a question to Ric, and then I'm going to sit down, and you're going to hear more from the panel than me. But Ric, Camden was rated the 7th best place to work by Fortune magazine, and I think that's an incredible thing.
Thank you.
And so I did a little, digging into things, and these are some of the things I found out. Camden is 49% women, 46% minority. You pay domestic partner benefits. And then when I read more, and these articles with Fortune, you have all these message boards. And then so I started reading many, employees that talked about their experience, very, very positive, and I rate 10 or 2, but, that happens. But more good people, and there had to be, I don't know how many, that the equivalent of Ric rocks. And, spelled a whole bunch of ways, which Ric spells it R-I-C, but R-I-C-K, and, Ricky, and all, But why are you a great employer? Is it because of, I want to hear some of the things that you do, and particularly talk about your diversity, or is it just because you rock?
Well, thanks, Daryl. Rocking takes a long time, and it takes a lot of effort, okay? And when you get down to it, diversity is a huge part of it. There's no question about it. And when we talk about diversity, I think a lot of people will sort of bristle and go, well, yeah, that means I have to hire less quality employees, right? Which is not right. That's a fallacy. But the Fortune list for us was a sort of validation of our culture that we built over a number of years. And when you think about what creates a great culture and a great place to work, it's really about trust and the trust between the employees and the employer. And the trust is driven by sort of a few dimensions. One is credibility, respect, and fairness. And then that leads to a couple other dimensions, which are pride and camaraderie when you get down to it. So when you think about credibility, what is credibility? You can think about these terms, but what credibility does, and what we do at Camden is, credibility is about communicating effectively to your people, giving them the information about what the plan is, and having them be true partners in your organization, and also being credible in the conversation, because that's fundamentally do what you say. If you don't do what you say, then you blow credibility big time. You communicate in a lot of different ways. This is a major communication that I use. I have 5 or 6 different versions of this shirt. I wear it every time I address my troops. Today I toured properties in the morning, and and everybody knows who I am because I have my name here. Okay, so with that said, and we picked up cigarette butts and a bunch of stuff here and there, and even though they shouldn't have been there, but they were warm, so they were new. But this is major nonverbal communication. It shows that I respect and have pride in my people that serve our customer every single day. And that comes out, and you get a long-term value proposition from that. The respect side of the equation is respecting diversity. It's respecting individuality. It's respecting the employees from the perspective of life-work balance, the idea of giving partner insurance, things like that. That's respect. And then when you think about fairness, fairness is about providing the work tools and the environment for the people to succeed and to share the economic success or tension equitably through the group, which means that you have hiring practices where everybody gets a fair shot. You have educational programs that allow them to move up in the organizations and what have you, and we do all those things. So when you get down to it, that creates a workforce that's diverse, that's very, very motivated, that's very focused. Now, the Fortune list, not to spend a huge amount of time on this, but it's 2/3 of the scoring is blind employee surveys, and 1/3 is you put all your information that you got from website, your diversity, things like that, your benefits and all. And the interesting part of it is that so you can put a pretty good resume together on that 1/3, but if your employees don't believe that it's 60 questions, and if they don't believe it's a great place to work, then you're toast. You're not going to get on the list. So with that said, there are 2 questions that we look at that just blow me away. One is the question is my work has special meaning. This is not just a job. Okay, now in the 100 companies, the average score is 86% of the people say that. At Camden, 94% of the people say that. And the reason they say that is because we communicate effectively every day that number one, what we do in our job is we take care of people's homes. And the home is such a precious place for people that if we screw that up and they have a problem at Christmas dinner or at Thanksgiving or at a special event and they have a problem with their home, then it's a problem. And that's a big thing. The second big issue or big question was, given everything taken into account, is this a great place to work? Fortune's list, 90% of the people say yes. Camden had 96% of the people said yes. And again, this is all about creating a fabric through diversity, through communication, respect, and all those things that we all want to think about as a company. Now, what happens, however, is people talk a lot, and then they do things to destroy that. So like during the downturn, we had a downturn. Did y'all know that? Unfortunately, I started the downturn in my first year as chairman of NMHC in 2008. But with all that said, you saw a lot of people do things during the downturn that were not respectful or were not equally, did not create equity within the corporation, within the company. The person that took the highest percentage pay cut was me, 60% cut. I didn't cut any on-site salaries or any on-site bonuses, and all the VPs, from top VP to middle VP to director, all took cuts as well, but in smaller amounts. And we didn't cut 401k plans. We didn't cut employee stock purchase plans. We didn't do anything that would be negatively construed by our teams. And then the other big thing I think we did was we, and this is in the time, at the time where our stock price went from $80 a share to $16. Everybody was worried about us going bankrupt. We laid off 150 people. We stopped a $1 billion construction pipeline, filled holes into the ground that were not out of the ground yet because it was prudent to do. And at the same time, we went from number 41 on the Fortune list to number 10, and then to number 7. With all that pain, because the pain was measured, it was communicated effectively, and it was taken by the top people the worst. And that's what this whole credibility and idea is with that. So with that, that's how you get a great place to work. Say what you say, communicate, and then do what you say.
And then it's the close.
The close, you have lots of different ways to communicate, and this is my nonverbal communication. And literally, I wear it whenever I speak to my people or whenever I tour properties that have a lot of, and people love it. It's great. Isn't it an issue of education? It really is, because the issue is, and I think Bill hit on it, you're hitting on it in a different fashion. It's I have to compromise my earnings or the talent pool that I have to deal with in order to be diverse. And part of the objective of us sitting up here in the whole diversity committee is to try to dispel that. And I will tell you at Camden, for example, the last board member that we recruited was African American. He's a Harvard MBA, very smart guy in telecommunications business. But I will tell you that on my board, I had a guy retire, so we have 9 people on our board. And before Kelvin came in, we recruited him directly. We had 8 sort of middle-aged or older white guys and me. And I'm technically Spanish surname. My grandmother and grandfather from Spain. My father, first generation. So soy Ricardo Jose Campo, and so I get that check mark. But with that said, some people might look at the other half of me, which is from my mother's side, who's Scottish and English. But with that said, it was interesting recruiting Kelvin because we had people on the board who were uncomfortable with African American, and once they met him, and we didn't compromise at all anyway, but this whole idea of education is you don't have to compromise. The last 3 people we hired in our fund management business, which is a six-figure, mid-six-figure income guy, we just hired a IT person, a manager-level IT person, both African American. We just hired a new financial person in our finance department who is an MBA Hispanic woman. We are in the process of recruiting a new board member, and it's a mandate. The mandate is Hispanic woman in consumer products, not real estate, and doesn't have to be sitting CEO, which is because if you take the sitting CEO out of the equation, you get a whole lot more hits when you start searching for that. But it gets to this whole issue of A, you don't have to compromise on quality, and B, you have to educate people, because people generally want to have people like them around them, unless you educate them that it's better not to. And we get a great deal as, at Bazzuto, you obviously know that you're serving your customers, and your customers are diverse. And so you're going to have diversity in your brain, then you're going to have a problem dealing with those people ultimately. And I think it's good business, and we have to communicate that to the recalcitrant CEOs and other senior people to make sure they understand that. On the company to a certain extent as well, when you start thinking about the discussion you just had about women wanting to bail in their 30s or late 30s, early 40s, because as a company, we're investing a lot of capital and a lot of talent and a lot of education and what have you. And I will tell you, over my 25 years in this business, I've lost a lot of women that have bailed, that have been C-level capable women that have either made enough money with Camden or our deals that they decided that they were going to go do their deal somewhere else where they didn't have to do a deal on the day before Thanksgiving when they had 10 people come in over their house and they were cooking a turkey and we were closing a $55 million land deal. It had to be closed that day. And they were like, I'm done. I'm not doing it. Well, you're my general counsel. You've got to do it. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Well, I'm done. God, next. I made a couple $1 million. I'm out of here. And so the challenge is that even though we want C-level people like Connie Moore and others and Julie, it's tough to get, because what happens is you get to that level, to a certain level, and you go, am I going to pay the price? I'm a million and a half mile club at Continental Airlines. I had 500,000 miles on American Airlines. I travel at least 3 weeks out of the month, and it's just is what it is. And my wife stays at home and handle all our kids, and I miss things here and there, but I guarantee you that I've had more people bail because they would not pay that price to be the CEO or to be the CFO. And I've had 2 CFOs bail because of those kind of issues, general counsels, and it's just one of those. We want to have more diversity gender-wise in the C-level, but it's hard.
Yeah, and
I think the challenge we've had in the industry is not just the talent pool, because you'd rather go to work for Google than to go to work for a property management company, right? I mean, that's just right out of school. That's the way some of these people think. And I think the other sort of issue that is out there is this industry tends to be deal-based, and it tends to be 3 to 5 year mentalities. I'm going to buy an asset, own it for 3 to 5 years, sell it, make a profit, sell that, move off, and do something else, right? And I think as the companies become more institutional, like the Camdens, the Bazzutos, that are long-term, real live companies that are here not for 3 to 5 years or 10 years, but for a long time. And Camden's been public for 17, 18 years now, and it's a long-term institutional company that'll be around here for 50 years. And as our industry matures through more long-term institutional ownership and less fragmentation and less sort of deal mentality of buying and selling, then I think that we'll be able to attract the talent from a more diverse talent pool. Let me give you a quick story about a controller I hired once. First female accounting person. This is a long time ago. But I took this young lady, Angie Westergren. I'll never forget her name because I still know her today. And Angie was one of the classic sort of, she hit her ceiling and decided she didn't want to work as much as she needed to work when she was the CFO pre-IPO Camden, and went off and did something else. So I brought Angie, who was a Texas A&M graduate, and she could turn the air blue with her language, okay? She could. So I took her into this construction meeting. This is this whole same kind of idea, and these construction guys, good old boy, redneck construction guys, they were totally stressed out beyond belief that this young lady was in that meeting. And they didn't speak very, freely or anything. After the meeting, this guy comes up to me and says, I can't do my job if she's here. I was like, well, why? He goes, well, I can't say the F word. I said, are you kidding me? I said, Angie, come over here. So she let it rip, and then they became good friends ultimately. But that part of the equation is what's really hard about this whole diversity issue, because people who are not comfortable with diversity and they believe that they're sacrificing talent, or they're going to get sued because they're black, or they're this or that, and they don't get a promotion or something like that. That's just old school wrong. And what happens, and the problem you have, is to try to get that education over. Like, I'll give you another example which really hurt my head that happened in the last couple of months, where I had this very, very progressive, interesting, good friend who said, and I'll just paraphrase what he said, I don't even think of Daryl as black anymore. What a good guy.
But Daryl,
I mean, that's my point. My point is education, and you don't have to sacrifice. He could do a good job. We actually have Camden University, where we teach English and Spanish. We also do not have a policy that says you have to speak English. We have plenty of people who don't speak English, and part of it has to do with just what their job is. They obviously are limited in terms of their upward mobility if they can't speak English. But bottom line is we don't have that sort of that piece. I think the real issue when you get into this all Latinos on a property, or all Russians, or whatever, I don't think it's as much of an issue about having all the same ethnic mix in a property. It's are you limiting their ability to move around? Are you paying them less? Are you giving them some sort of chain? Are they chained to that property because of their ethnicity? And if you're doing that, then you probably have some EEOC problems. But if you're allowing people to move around, and you got them, going everywhere, and they just happen to speak Russian, so they're at that Russian property, but they have the ability to go somewhere else, and they have in the past, then you should be okay.
Yeah, I think the EEOC doesn't really distinguish between that. If any, I'm sure you've all had experiences with the EEOC, so
yeah,
I don't think they distinguish
whatever.
between that. But
yeah.
the other thing
whatever
is,
group.
yeah, the maintenance.